And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, Darren back with you here at Cross Timbers Farm. Welcome to 8th Day Chronicles on this beautiful late summer day. It's about noontime and we're preparing to cut hay. I'm standing here in front of one of our hay fields in our test plot here, and the growth stage of this test plot is absolutely prime. It is ready to cut. Our cool season grasses, our orchard, timothy, fescue, and red clover, and ladino clover is absolutely prime. Let me just pull a little piece here of some orchard grass. I'm gonna bend over here. I get way down in there. Folks, I want you to look at this hay, this orchard grass. Look how long that is. One thing you notice about most of the cool season grasses, your orchard grass and timothy and tall fescue, the reproductive stage of those cool season grasses, they usually seed head once per year from what I've studied, and that's usually at our first cutting. So the second cutting, you're not necessarily going by the seed head when it's ready to cut. You're looking at the overall growth stage of the hay, when it's really filling out that vegetable matter, and you have to really keep an eye on it. The leafy matter, when I say vegetable, I should have clarified that. To be able to cut this hay at prime time, you have to really keep an eye on it and be inspecting your hay. When you know it's getting fairly close, you need to be inspecting it pretty regularly, every couple of days. At least walking out for just a few minutes and taking a look at it. Man, this is gonna make some absolutely top shelf hay. But when you see this, your cool season grass is really getting thick and thickening out, and the bunch grass is really spreading and becoming, this is so thick you can almost walk on top of it. And when you notice that growth stage is the growth is really starting to level out, that's when you're ready to cut. Our growth stage here is fantastic, thick, nice. I think if we wait much longer, the palatability of this hay will start going down, and the nutritional value of it will start declining some. When it's in this good a shape, that's not going to be a rapid decline. It's going to be slow, very slow, but you still want to cut it at peak growth. And I think right now we're at our peak growth, where it's not really going to get much thicker or much more volume. This time of year, lots with not many seed heads. Now you'll have some seed heads. You'll have some seed heads here and there and yonder, but not many. Not like you do at first cutting. And so we start looking at the growth stage, the tenderness of these cool season grasses, and when they're really growing, and when that growth stage kind of starts to slow down. You notice it's not getting a whole lot thicker. It's kind of, what you might say, reached its peak. That's where we're at. So we're going to cut today. We've had a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico that come through Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, and up into North Carolina. And our prayers are with those folks that went through that storm. But now the storm is back in the Atlantic off the coast of North Carolina. And the rain has, according to the radar, the rain has moved offshore and to the coast of North Carolina and here in the mountains. We now have bluebird sunshiny days, and we're supposed to have bluebird days just like this. Temperatures in the 80s, high 70s, low 80s, and plentiful sunshine for like the next 6 or 7 days. So perfect timing. Our hay is ready. The weather is cooperating. The good Lord's smiling on us. We're going to start cutting hay. Okay, folks, we've got our drum mower brought up to our asphalt driveway where it's really level. And I preach this a lot about a drum mower. To get this thing level with this sliding bar in the middle where this mower can move to the contours of your field. So I'm going to step you through that process. First thing I'm going to do is pull my transport bar up, and I've got this mower about that far off the ground. Maybe that far. Okay, I've got my hitch pin out from the breakaway bar so it can come around. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pull the bar, transport mode bar right here loose. Okay, and we're going to let this mower swing right around. Okay, very gently. You can see here that my floating pin is all the way back. Okay, and my drum mower on top of that is sitting a little bit tilted to the cutting edge. The trailing edge is up a little bit. So we need to adjust our top link first to get the mower level. Well, let's do that. To get this mower level this way, to our trailing and cutting edge are both level, we're going to start extending the top link. Extending the top link will level this out. Okay, there it goes. Okay, all of a sudden my top link got really loose. That's usually when your drum mower is sitting perfectly level. It's taking all the back and forth weight off this top link. Okay, we're just going to put our lock nut up where this top link can't move. Right there. Okay. Now, our mower is still sitting like this. Okay, so we need to raise this end to get this pin up. It's not bad off, but it's off. So we're going to start extending this bottom adjustable side link right there. Okay, let me take the camera and show you this closer. Okay, folks, can you see that top? That sliding pin. We have adjusted our adjustable side link until this pin right here is right in the middle of our slot. We may have went just a little too far. Let me tighten it back up just a little. About right there. There we go. All right. The mower's ready to hook the PTO shaft up and mow. But first we need to swing it back around into the transport position until we get it out into the field. We'll lock our links down with lock nuts to where it can't come out of adjustment. And then we'll swing it back around and head to the field. Beautiful blue skies. Nice sun, lower humidity. If this week will stay this way with this little bit lower humidity and the nice sun, we should have excellent dry down for our hay. It's been a couple hours. We've had everything here hooked up, the drum mower leveled and ready, and all the fluids and the tractor and the mower and everything's been checked and greased, and we greased our PTO joints, and we just kind of been waiting. And you may wonder why are you waiting? Cutting your hay at the right time of day is another piece of the puzzle for high quality hay. The last couple of days we've had rain, and today we've got bluebird skies and plentiful sunshine. Absolute recipe for perfect haymaking day. And the reason we wait until later in the evening to cut our hay is because your grass hays and your legumes during the night, they burn up sugars and starches for food, carbohydrates, just like we do. When you eat supper or breakfast in the morning, you go out and work all day, you're burning that energy and expelling carbon monoxide, carbon monoxide. Your plants are no different, your grasses. During the day, the sun, the photosynthesis on that grasses is building up starches and sugars, and they're filling themselves up with that good stuff for at night when the sun goes down and that sunshine is no longer building those starches and carbohydrates and sugars. The plants, that's what they feed on through the night. They drop back down into the root system and feed that plant. If you wait till later in the afternoon to cut, or evening to cut your hay, when those starches has really come up into that plant and the sun and the photosynthesis has really developed those starches and sugars in those grasses, and late in the evening after the sun's been on them most of the day, that's when they're at their highest. If you come along and cut your hay while those starches and sugars are at their highest, at night after you've cut it, you won't lose as much. It still will respire a normal amount, but if you start out with a higher amount, then you lose less, I guess you could say, than if you cut it in the morning when the starches and the sugars are almost depleted from those grasses. So we've been waiting a couple hours, and we're about ready to cut. It's getting on up in the day, and late afternoon, early evening. So we're about ready to fire up the Kubota and start laying this hay over. It looks really good, and we're excited. Cutting your hay at the right time of day, as well as the correct growth stage, it's a totality of the circumstances. You put all these little things together, and they all come together to make high quality hay. It's attention to detail of all the little things, and some bigger things thrown in the mix. But when you take all these small things, the right growth stage, cutting it at a certain time during the day, when you understand the photosynthesis and the sugars and the starches, and for the growth period of that hay, like I said, it's kind of a totality of the circumstances that all comes together at the cutting time and baling time to make a high quality product. folks, this right here is prime. You look at the orchard in Timothy. Man, that's good stuff. And it's so thick you can walk on it. Looking good. Okay, folks, we are done cutting our second cutting on our main hay field. We're done for the year on this field. This was our last cutting. Two's all we're gonna get off this field this year. we're working toward our quality getting better and better and better, and our soil getting better and better and better from the amendments we've been doing. And we're hoping maybe next year that this will match our test plot for 3 cuttings. This is due to our elevation and weather that we have here in the mountains. Our growing season is not as long. Most farmers in our area get 2 cuttings a year. Early summer and a late summer, and this is our late summer cutting. We're going to get 3 off our test plot. We're going to cut that tomorrow. The hay here in our main hay field is some places super thick, a lot thicker than the first cutting. Then there's still areas that the first cutting we had some thin areas, and we still have a few thin areas, but not as bad as our first cutting. I'm pretty sure our yield's going to go up. This hay looks fantastic. The orchard grass and Timothy. It's just, I mean, thick as thieves. It looks really good. We're going to do quite a bit of tedding tomorrow and the next day, just due to how thick this is. I don't know if you can see that. My goodness. And it's just falling. A beautiful orchard. And it is soft. This is some soft, tender hay. This is going to make really good quality hay. We'll get it tedded tomorrow. We'll do our 3rd cutting on our test plot tomorrow. And then we'll be done with the drum mower. And we'll hook the tedder and we'll ted this tomorrow. And maybe the test plot tomorrow late, right before dark tomorrow. And definitely the day after. But everything done well. The Kubota ran great, and the old Maxx FDM 135, phenomenal. We have an old, when we bought this property, there was an old fence row that ran the length of this field. And for years, when they had cattle on this farm before we bought it, the cows would walk that fence, and they created, it's on a little bit of a slope, you may saw, but they created a dip where that old fence row used to be. And I've always just mowed some strips parallel to that dip on both sides and then mowed the rest of it. This was the first time I ever tried to just mow right over it and keep going. Worked phenomenal until I got to one steep place out here where the dip is a lot more. And 2 times the breakaway bar on my Maxx drum mower saved the day. That drum mower runs perfect, and that breakaway bar works as intended. It does phenomenal. When you hit into an object that you can adjust the tension on that spring by how much pressure you want it to take before it breaks away. And I've got it kind of at a medium setting. It will protect your tractor. 2 different times today I had to stop and reattach my breakaway bar. That hump that those cattle created along that old fence row, I decided today I wanted to keep my windrows going longer instead of making turns and going along parallel in that old fence row. And it worked perfect, except way out here toward the end where it got the hump got more pronounced. 2 different times when I went over that, the drums kind of bumped into that bank pretty solidly, and my breakaway bar done its job. It worked as intended 2 different times. So I've got a little work to do over there to keep that from happening in the future. And I'm sure that caused my blades to dig into the ground a little bit, probably dulled them a little bit, but I looked at them and they're still not nicked or chipped or anything like that, so I believe they're good for tomorrow. And I even felt of all 6 of them, and they're still in okay shape. But I've got to do something about that before we cut this again. Very pleased with our hay. It's going to be a 2, 3, 4 day process because I'm telling you, this hay is thick. Dry down's going to take a little longer than normal, but we've got 5 days or so in the forecast of nothing but sun and blue skies and fair in the humidity range. So not great, but not very humid either. So dry down should go okay. So we're looking forward to cutting our test plot tomorrow. We got, after we get that hay down, we'll have quite a bit of hay down. So we're going to have quite a bit of baling and raking and tedding to do. So we'll bring you back for all that. And thanks for being here on the farm with us today. It's not long. The sun's still out at the moment, but it's just about to go over the mountain, behind the mountain there. And it's going to be dark, so I think we timed it just right. The sugars and starches in our hay should have been at a very high level. So that's a good thing. Thanks for being with us here on the farm. If you haven't, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. God bless you and your family, and hope you have a great evening. Come back with us for the next couple videos when we do some tedding and raking and baling.